Welcome to Church for Skeptics, giving answers to the hard questions concerning the Christian faith. Your host and teacher is Dan Arsenault.
Good evening. Welcome to Church for Skeptics. My name is Dan Arsenault, and I have a great guest with me today, Dr. Steve Cowan. And we're going to be talking about truth, which is kind of what this program is about anyway. And if you are a believer in Christianity, if you put your faith in Christ, I really encourage you to line on this, because you are facing a culture that doesn't believe that truth exists. And so it's kind of like we've got to back up a step. I made this analogy on an earlier program, but what we're actually asking people to do is kind of like they're driving down the interstate, or I just got back from Europe, the Autobahn, and they have passed many years ago, or many exits ago, the exit called Christianity. And we're asking them, against the flow of traffic, to pull over in the emergency lane, which is appropriate, and back up against traffic and reconsider the exit that they missed. Well, that's traumatic for someone to do that, and it takes a miracle for that to happen. If you are an unbeliever, and I don't mean to say that in a critical sense, if you're a non-believer, a skeptic, this is for you. I mean, I'm doing this for you. I'm asking you to do that. I'm asking you to back up and reconsider, and I'm even going back beyond or before Christianity itself. I think we have to establish a common ground that existed before Jesus came on this earth. And so a couple of programs ago, I started talking about first principles of logic that were, I guess the best word is discovered by Aristotle. The Greeks believed in eternal truth that existed, but they did not attach a person or a personality to that. Dr. Steve, how about just telling us a little bit about yourself and I guess establish your credentials? You're the expert witness today.
Well, thanks for having me, Dan. I really appreciate the opportunity. Steve Cowan, I am on staff with a ministry in Birmingham called the Apologetics Resource Center. And we specialize in dealing with the tough questions that people ask about the Christian faith. We do this for Christians. We go to churches and do seminars on the tough questions, the kind of questions you deal with on this program. And we try to interact with the skeptics as well and get them to, as you put it, reconsider an option in the religious, in the market of religious ideas that they may have overlooked.
One of the things that probably be profitable here, is it true that people can call ARC, or I guess email ARC, and get material for questions that they can actually read free?
Absolutely. We send out free information packets on a host of questions. You can go to our website to order that material, as well as see what kind of packets we have. That website is www.arcapologetics.org.
Okay.
And the phone number is toll-free 866-403-0102.
All right. Say those one more time.
All right. Website, www.arcapologetics.org. And phone number, 866-403-0102.
Great. And I really invite people to avail themselves of this material. Matter of fact, I've done that and plan to do it again.
Okay.
Let me just start out here and give me a little bit of your educational background.
Sure. Well, I got a BA in sociology from the University of Southern Mississippi many years ago now. I have a Master's of Divinity from Southwestern Baptist Seminary in Fort Worth, and I have a MA and PhD in philosophy from the University of Arkansas.
That's pretty diverse. Was that by design from the
Sure,
start?
absolutely. I wanted to study theology at the seminary level as well as philosophy at the PhD level, and I was able, by God's grace, to do both. So.
Amen. That's great. All right, here's the question.
Okay.
And I'm just going to read this. I kind of pre-planned some of these based on what we've been talking about. We started with Aristotle and how that applies, what that looks like in real life if you believe that there are inherent truths. One of the questions I ran into in Europe especially is the idea of the possibility of knowing. I think so many people, especially I would think in the postmodern culture, basically think either there is no truth or there is no way of knowing it.
Sure.
So here's my question. Can we as human beings know that there is meaning and purpose to our existence, which is to me to be the major issue? I'm here for a reason or there's no reason at all. And that meaning and purpose originates outside of me, outside of my own will and my own experience. Can we know that?
I believe we can if God exists. If God exists, I believe we can have knowledge of any number of things, including the fact that we have meaning and purpose. And the reason why I put it that way is because it's only if there is a personal, transcendent creator of the universe who created us in his image, as Christians believe, and who endows human beings with inherent value, who makes human life sacred and purposeful, who in fact gives us a purpose in this world and for a world to come. Only if God exists can there even be such a thing as objective meaning and value to human life. You alluded to, part of your question was, can we have meaning that comes from some external source? Sure, we can subjectively create our own meaning. You know, the existentialists like Jean-Paul Sartre and Albert Camus and others believe that any human being could subjectively create his own meaning. But the real issue is whether there can be any objective, real meaning that's not just something we arbitrarily invent. Can there be objective meaning and purpose to human life? And I believe there can be, but only if God exists.
Where does Nietzsche fit in with that? Because what I understand about him is that he kind of implied the same thing, that there is no meaning to life, so that we have to, by the strength of our will, make life meaningful.
Well, I like Nietzsche a lot because even though he came to a different conclusion than I did in these matters, he was an atheist, nevertheless his premise is absolutely right. Nietzsche's premise was that in an atheistic universe, in a universe that was just the result of time and chance, that's just a cosmic accident, in that kind of universe where we come from nothing and we are ultimately destined to perish into nothing one day, in that kind of universe, human life is utterly meaningless. That life is, in fact, absurd. And so he embraced that absurdity. He believed that life was meaningless, and that led him to despair. That was his conclusion. So I agree with Nietzsche's premise that in an atheistic universe, in a universe without God, that life is meaningless. But I believe that we all know deep down that life is meaningful, and I think that provides us with a strong impetus to believe that there is, in fact, a God.
That's a really important statement that you just made. And let me kind of repeat it, and then you correct me if I'm wrong. I think what you said is that we do inherently know and intrinsically know somewhere in all of us, that would be the atheist, the Christian, whoever, that there is some meaning to our existence. You think that that's really true?
I really believe so. We have a hunger for meaning and purpose, I think.
Absolutely.
But I think it's more than that. I think deep down, all of us know that life, human life at least, and perhaps all life, is valuable. That there's something wrong with hurting other human beings for no reason. And that, and I think tied in with this idea of morality is the idea of meaning and purpose as well. We know that our lives are meaningful. We know that they are purposeful. And that's why we all live, in fact, as if they are. You know, except for a few people who, for whatever reason, reach some point of despair, perhaps because they refuse or can't acknowledge that there's a God. But yeah, all of us deep down know that human life is meaningful and purposeful.
I think you made another good point that Nietzsche would be an example of, as far as I know about him. He did reach the conclusion life was meaningless. He didn't seem happy about it, though.
No. In fact, he found it kind of ironic that other people in his own day had not reached the same conclusion that he had reached, and reached this point of despair and even cynicism over human life and existence. Nietzsche lived in the late 1900s.
Right.
I'm sorry, 1800s, 19th century. And a day in which many people had begun to embrace agnosticism and even atheism. Right. And yet people seemed to go on with their lives as if everything was okay, as if their lives still had meaning, as if they still had purpose. And Nietzsche thought that this was horribly inconsistent.
So that was the absurdity that he actually saw.
That's right.
He kind of called him on the carpet about.
Exactly. Nietzsche wanted people to realize the implications of their worldview, that if God does not exist, then their lives really are meaningless. And yet people didn't realize that.
I associate Nietzsche with, is it nihilism or nihilism?
I've heard it pronounced both ways.
Yeah.
I usually say nihilism.
Okay. Well, I associate him with that. What is that, and how does it contend with a biblical philosophy of reality?